There is a story that frustrates me every time I think about it in leadership. So I had this guy on my team. This was a good few years ago now. And this was the first time that someone had ever asked me for a pay rise. Now, I have, pay rises, whatever you think of them, you may have like a yearly review session thing. You may do it every 6 months. You may be required to go and ask for it. You may be, I don't know. We're going to cover all of that in this episode. But the main thing that I want you to get from this episode is this idea that your work does not speak for itself, sadly. And the most frustrating story, this is the one that I need to tell you. I had a guy many years ago, and he asked me for a pay rise. Now, seemingly all okay. Ask your manager for a pay rise, of course. However, this guy was on a performance review. He was on a PIP, and his performance had been so awful in the year leading up to him asking for this pay rise that it got to the moment that he asked, and it was like this switch flipped in my brain, because I was sat there thinking, this guy who is not doing well, is failing at his job, is on the verge of being fired, is on a PIP, on a performance review, has the, we can call it confidence if you want, or we can call it audacity, to go to his manager and ask for a pay rise. And although in the moment it did piss me off, it frustrated me, I had one of the biggest learnings in leadership from that conversation, which was there is people out there getting the things that you and I want just because they have the courage, the confidence, the audacity, whatever, to go and ask for it. And until that point, I hadn't really asked for pay rises. I'd taken them, I'd worked fucking hard for them, but had I actually gone and stated my case and asked for it? Not really. And so this episode has two angles that we're going to cover. First off, the fact that your work doesn't speak for itself, visibility, making sure, and I'm going to give you the tips, tricks, if you want to say. I'm very wary of when people say things like tricks and hacks when it comes to leadership, because there are very few. A lot of it is just trial and error. A lot of it is learning. A lot of it is just doing the fucking hard work. However, there are just some, I'm going to call them tips, tricks that we can do to make sure that when the pay rise conversations happen, when the promotion conversations happen, when your boss is thinking about you, they think of a confident, competent force in their work, and they don't see you as a liability. So we're going to look at that angle and some ways that you can make sure that you are seen as that person. But the other angle of this is just, as a leader, as people who manage teams, whether you're a business owner, a manager of managers, or a manager of individual contributors inside a huge organization, whatever your role in leadership is, you also have somewhat of a responsibility to make sure that the people who have the most confidence and courage to go and ask for these things aren't the only ones that get it, because the quieter ones are often, more often than not, to be honest, in my experience, the ones who are contributing more. So we're going to look at all of those things today. You're going to get a lot from this episode, because you're probably going to feel my anger come out, because this has been a real journey for me. This has been a real journey. So I want to rewind us to, oh God, what year was this? I want to say 2017. And this is the first time I'd ever asked for a pay rise, okay? I think I was on 28 grand at the time. And I remember my responsibilities had really grown. So I joined the business as a support / social media person, coming from a PA role. And it was kind of just a role that was anything that you can do. Super early stage startup, of course, anything that you can do to help. And I was just doing a bit of everything. And then we got about, I want to say it was 8 months in, and I had moved into more of a marketing skilled professional. I was running our campaigns, I was hiring for new people, etc. So I knew I needed to ask for a pay rise. The founder had said to me, it's time for us to look at a pay rise. I stayed in the office until I can't even remember what time at night, because I believed that I shouldn't do this work in work time. I was no, this is the kind of stuff I need to do outside of work. So I'll do it after work in the office, and pulled together this 20-page slide deck presentation as to why I deserved this pay rise. And I think I was asking for I want to say it was 33 grand from 28. So it was a good jump, but not a huge jump, nothing crazy. And I pulled together all these stats, all these wins, all these, all this information about the things that I'd done. And I got halfway through the presentation, and the founder literally stopped me and was like, Heather, what are you asking? What are you asking for here? Please just tell me how much money you're asking for. I said the amount, and he was like, yeah, done, easy. We were going to give you that anyway. And this was actually before the guy came to me and asked for a pay rise who was on a PIP. So I still had all this like fear and nervousness around asking for something, promoting myself, making myself visible, asking for the things that I wanted. So fast forward to the conversation where he asks me for a pay rise, he's on a PIP, had this big I'm not going to swear, mother effing realization that those people are out there asking for the things that we want, and they're doing it with the utmost amount of confidence. They're not pulling together 35-page slide decks. They're just going and asking for it. So from that moment on, I kind of swore to myself that I wouldn't allow my fear of being seen, my fear of rejection get in the way. Now, I heard something a few years ago it was this concept of the 100 no's. It was this rejection concept where if you get everything you ask for, if everything you ask for is approved, is said yes, you win everything in life, you're potentially not shooting high enough. And I learned this lesson again recently, actually, because in 2025, I was really undercharging for my workshops. It was a good amount to get started, but it was nowhere near really the industry standard, especially the standard that I was delivering, the amount of people that I was impacting. I wasn't charging nearly enough. And the reason I knew I wasn't charging nearly enough is because out of, I think we did 18 proposals for these like big in-house workshops with teams in 2025, and 17 of them were signed off and approved. And I'd heard, I think it was from maybe Alex Hormozy, said something where he's like, if every single one of your sales proposals has been approved, you are not charging enough. You're not charging nearly enough. So for 2026, I pretty much doubled the price. And to be honest, the standard has improved. Like my development, I've done coaching around delivery of workshops. I've improved my standard. Tisha's in the corner doing the clock it sign. I'm obsessed. The standards of work that I'm delivering has improved. And so I doubled the price. And near enough, where are we now? We're in June of 2026. And we have, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think we've probably sent out like 10 proposals and only had 6 of them approved. But it's more money than 10 of the ones that I've done last year. And when you're running especially a service-based business, like your time is so valuable. There's only one of me. There's only like one place I can be at any one time. So doubled the price, had the same, more cash come into the business that we can now fund. Obviously, we're now building Custard so we can increase our reach even more. But it just goes to show that we have to seek rejection. Like if we're just getting yeses all the time, we are probably operating inside a comfort zone. And I know rejection is scary. I know rejection is hard. Hearing the word no is crappy. I think, to be honest, still to this day, I am fearful of, like, I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm someone who you would think, maybe if you looked at me from the outside, you would think that I could like dream big. I had big dreams and big whatever. I really struggle to like commit to a big goal because I get fearful of not achieving it and letting myself down and letting other people down. And I get really fearful, even inside our own team, of setting big targets or big goals for the year because I'm like, oh, but what if we don't achieve it? And then I feel like I've let people down. Anyway, so I do struggle with that a little bit, but I'm coming to terms with this concept of rejection and like pitching myself for things that I'm going to get rejected from. I pitch myself to go on guest podcasts now, and 1 in every 2 of them will get accepted. 1 in every 2 of them will get rejected. But it's better than not pitching at all and being scared of rejection and not winning any of them, not getting onto any of them. So we have to kind of go looking for these no's. We have to push for things, seek things. And I think one of the biggest places that you can see this is in salaries, in what we ask for and what we expect from our workplace. Now, there is a fine line. And whenever I talk about salaries to managers, people are always like, but my team are really entitled. Everyone just wants a salary increase. I'm not, guys, the work has to match up. Your standard of work does 100% have to match up. If you are under delivering, if you are not smashing your work and you go and ask for a pay rise, of course, unfair. Of course, there is a sense of entitlement there, which is what was happening with that guy when he asked for it on the PIP. However, I know the majority of you listening to this, the vast majority, are not in that place. You would not be listening to a podcast about how to better yourself in leadership if you weren't fucking smashing your job. Like there's a 99% chance you are doing brilliantly. So I'm talking to you and you just need to go ask for things. So before having that pay rise conversation, which I can go and I'm going to tell you exactly how to have that conversation in a minute. Before having that conversation, there is some very important visibility things that we have to do. The biggest pay rise I ever got was in 2021 when I'd moved into Sage, and I went to my boss. She was called Karen. She was brilliant. I'd gone to my boss and I was being paid, I think it was like 85 grand at the time. And the salary I'd asked for was 120K. It was a 35 grand pay increase. So the salary that I was asking for just like 4 years earlier, was that on top of what I was already getting paid. And the bonuses were like another third on top of that as well. So this was a huge, insane salary increase for me to go and ask for, but I got it. And I'm going to tell you how. So, because trust me, it was very much calculated. It was very much worked for, and I would say deserved, very much deserved. The first thing, and a lot of you are not going to like this, is to do with networking. And I'm not going to give you the traditional advice of go to networking events, network, blah, 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 because I hate networking. If there's one thing that you know I hate, it's networking. The amount of things I say no to, I actually think it's a bit embarrassing for me sometimes, the amount of like events that I should be going to with my industry peers, and I'm like, no. Even with big names, people who probably I should be going to see, and I say no because I just don't have time. I don't have time for it, and I don't want to do it, and I find it awkward, and I just don't like it. However, there is a way of networking in the modern world where you can avoid all of that. And I heard a quote recently that was, networking is not about who you know, it's about who knows you. And so there's a very easy way to get people to know you, and that way is called LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn are not paying me to say this, but I do have to say out loud, they have paid me in the past to do campaigns with them, but they're not paying me anything to say this right now. LinkedIn was a huge, huge, huge driver of my salary success in corporate. If you imagine posting on LinkedIn, okay, our CEO, guy called Steve Hare, still the CEO of Sage, he was one of, I think at the time of the COVID pandemic, he was the most highly rated CEO on Glassdoor. Brilliant guy. However, there's tens of thousands of team members at Sage based all over the globe. He has no business knowing my name. I'm like 5 rungs down on the ladder below him. He has no business knowing my name. He has no time for me. However, I started posting on LinkedIn, sharing all my team's stories. I remember one of our team members, Danielle, had done so much work building out this product, this new like product feature line for us. And I did this whole post about how she'd worked so hard for it and we'd had amazing results and how brilliant she was. And Steve Hare, our CEO, saw it. He saw the post and he messaged me and he was like, brilliant. He messaged me on Teams of all places, like, brilliant work on this, Heather. Thanks for your input. So not only had he got to know my name, but he'd also seen my team and all the great work that they were doing, which is what leadership is, by the way. Get people's names seen, get your team. You want to build opportunities for them, which is the double-edged kind of brilliantness of posting on LinkedIn, is you can tell their stories too. So over time, I think I started posting once a week. And when I saw the success it was having, increase that to every day. I'd just come into the office. In fact, I used to get the tram into work from town into Salford Quays. And it was like a 20-minute tram journey. And I would use that time to post on LinkedIn. And I realized how well it was doing for my career and probably getting a bit addicted to like the likes and stuff as well. I just started doing it every day. I was telling stories. It doesn't have to be about work. It was personal stories. I remember one day posting about how the rain it was absolutely chucking it down in Manchester, as it normally is. And I'd got the tram, I was soaked. And there was this guy stood outside the tram who was proper businessman, like dressed up on the phone, had a really fancy looking shirt and suit on, umbrella over his head. And I just remember looking out of the tram. This is going to sound really weird now, but he made me think of like the younger version of me who begged for that moment, like to be in a city, to live in a big city, to be commuting to work, to be with the businessmen on the phones. And the story was about how like the rain, everyone else, was pissed off at the rain, but for some reason the rain made it feel more emotional because it was like, I don't know, I just wanted that moment. Like I grew up in Doncaster and very like mid-sized town. I grew up in a village on a big estate. Like city wasn't even a thing. I can't even remember visiting a city when I was younger. We used to go on lots of caravan holidays to the seaside, but I remember the first time I went to London was when I was, I think, 16. We went for a day trip with my mum. She was taking us and I just fell in love. I was like, oh my God, big city, like city life. I remember going to Barcelona as well when I was like an older teenager and thinking, wow, big city. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Post about anything. But being visible, getting your name out there means that when you eventually sit down with your boss to have that pay rise conversation, you have added extra value to the business because you're literally getting eyeballs on the work that you're doing. You're getting hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands a lot of the time, eyeballs on the work that you're doing. That's valuable to any business. No business can deny that, okay? Second of all, you are essentially creating like a documented book of your wins. If you are posting all the time about the brilliant work that your team are doing, you're literally just creating a diary about all the amazing stuff. So it's there for you to pull from. Your boss is seeing it all the time. They're getting a constant reminder of all this great work that you're doing. But third, and this is how you win in the long run, is posting on LinkedIn will create just like an everlasting confidence in you as a human being. I guarantee the next time you go for a job, especially if it's a big job, they will look at your LinkedIn profile. I did for Tisha. Tisha's, again, in the room, just nodding away. One of the reasons that Tisha like pipped it to the post, obviously she was incredible in a million ways, but she had a LinkedIn profile where she was active and she was telling her stories. And especially for a social media role, that's really important. Like, we need to be able to see that. For any role, you cannot tell me that if that employer went to your LinkedIn profile and saw, over the last just few months, you'd been posting about all the great work you've been doing, that will attract great employers. They will see that value. So just trust me when I say, please post on LinkedIn. Get over the cringe. It's not cringe. We're all going to die. We're literally on a fucking floating rock in the middle of nowhere. Your ex is going to see it. Your mates from school are going to see it. People are going to send it to each other. Who does she think she is? Who does he think he is? That very quickly dies down. Trust me. After a month, you'll be over it. You'll do 3 posts and you'll be over the cringe. There will be posts where no one will like it. There'll be posts where no one will see it. There'll be posts where no one cares. No one even cares now about my content. Like, you might think they do, but we fight all the time to get people to care because we're in an attention economy. You just got to get over it. Like, you have to embrace the cringe. Be weirder. Tell your stories. Literally, the time will pass anyway, so please just have a go on LinkedIn. Another really fun thing about LinkedIn is that it's such an underused platform. I think the stats are there's 1 billion users on LinkedIn and only 1% of those users post anything ever. Yet, like, half of those users are silent engagers. So they're watching. They are watching. Some of my posts only get like 30 likes, but they get thousands and thousands of views. So, just that's the first one. Be visible. That's the preparation that you're doing for this. Second is making sure that you are showing the ROI of your work. This is helpful if you are going for a promotion, going for a pay rise, or going for a new job. People connect your value to the ROI much more than they do the tasks that you've done. So for example, if you are running let's say you're running a sales team, sales is an easy one to give you an example of. You could say, ran this team for 10 years. I've ran a team for 5 years. I have hired 4 people. I have built this system, whatever. I've had this experience. Or you could say, I increased the conversion within my team from lead to sale by 30%. I hired 4 team members who ultimately increased the sales by 400%. What is the ROI? Okay. When you go in those pay rise conversations, your leader is looking at the ROI on giving you a pay rise. Whether they say it out loud or not, they are looking for the ROI. I love that Tisha making notes. She's like, next pay rise conversation. Love it. Please use it. They're looking for the ROI. What's that return on investment for them? Tell them, find it. Create like a really good bit of advice that I got was create like a wins book where you just screenshot anything that you get a compliment on, any results that you have, anything that goes well, just chuck it in a drive folder so that when you have these conversations, it's all stored there ready for you to pull it from. We have to be doing louder work. What I mean is, especially now with work from home, Emma Grede talked about this in her book recently and got a lot of shit for it, which was if you work from home, you are less likely to be put up for leadership positions, to be given pay rises. And we can debate the ethics of that all day. But the truth is, it's called proximity bias. Like, it's a real thing in human beings. If you are with someone physically, you can see the work that they're doing. You can see the impact that they're having. You can see the effort that they're putting in. Therefore, when opportunities arise, it may be bias, it may be subconscious, but that person will be more connected to that opportunity. That being said, the reason I'm telling you this is because if you're a remote worker or someone who works from home, let's say you work from home like 3 days a week, what you need to be doing is making sure that your work is loud so you don't lose out because of that proximity bias. Make sure that so for example, you do something great in the week, just update your boss. It's not annoying them. Trust me, as a boss, as someone who's been in leadership positions for over a decade now, when my team just send me an update, it may even be daily. This is what I've done today. This is what I've smashed. Here's what I just need a bit of help on. That doesn't annoy me. It just makes me feel a higher sense of confidence in leaving them to it, in not having to look over my shoulder. Like when I delegate something to them, I don't have to then go, oh, I wonder if they're going to do it today, because I get an update. And so just close that gap of communication, communicate loud, just work louder, make your work as visible as you can to your boss inside your organization. I encourage my team to do this so much. And we got really good at it when I was in Thailand for 6 weeks at the beginning of this year, where I was like, because we have a time zone difference and we're working remotely every single day, none of us are together anymore. We weren't in the office obviously because I was in Thailand. Just update me like constantly. So I was working my hours in Thailand, and then the team would log on at I think it was like 2 p.m. or something my time. I would send them an update, say, look, this is what I've done, this for you, like these are the things you needed me to approve or get out of your way. This is what I've done. Then by the time they finished work, it was like midnight my time. So I was fast asleep, but I would wake up the next morning and they'd sent me an update of the things they'd done, where they still needed help, and everything that they'd smashed. It was just great communication, because the thing is, those questions will still be asked. So you will still, as a leader, in the back of your mind be thinking, was that thing done? Has that been done properly? Will it get done on time? So as an employee, as a team member of that person, close the gap, close the communication gap. Just tell them. It doesn't annoy them. Trust me. Then my third and final point before I tell you how to have this conversation is you do have to be doing great work. Like, I'm sorry to tell you that. You've got to be fucking good at what you do. You've got to be good at your job, and you have to be competent. The way I view a high performer versus someone who isn't like output. So I've had throughout the years many different types of high performers. Some who are super introverted, super quiet, struggle to kind of shout about their wins, but I see their work and it's brilliant. I've also had people, and this was an interesting one for me actually at the beginning, because it challenged what I knew to be true, which was I had someone who was quite slow. They were quite slow at their work, not fast, not super quick. However, the standard and quality of what they produced was impeccable. And so I knew that even though their output was probably only 50% of what maybe the person sat next to them could do, I also knew that their output was incredible and I would never have to go back and check their work. They would barely be making mistakes. And it challenged me, because at first I remember working with this person and I was thinking, God, she's slow. Like, this is hard. Are they right? I'm a very quick person, but I'm also someone who makes a lot of mistakes. Like, I'm very fast. But I would definitely say, and I know you shouldn't, one of my biggest weaknesses isn't, when people in interviews are like, what's your biggest weakness? And classic answer is perfectionism. I'm the opposite. I am whatever the opposite of a perfectionist is, that is me. I'm like, just get it out there, just get it out there, which is good, but it means that I do make a lot of mistakes. Like, you guys will know if you've seen my social media posts, there's normally at least one typo somewhere in that post. We laugh about it, but anyway. So it really challenged me when I thought about the slowness of this person. But over the months, over the years, I started to see that they were just brilliant. Their output, the quality of their output was so great. So they're also a high performer. And then you get someone who, is kind of in the middle. But one of the things that I really see as being a high performing trait is the ability to go out of your way to learn. So like, people who will come across a problem and their first instinct isn't to go and ask your manager, can you tell me how to do this? There is such a wealth of information out there on the internet now. There's YouTube, there's podcasts, there's AI, like chatbots, everything. I guarantee they can find the answer to that question without coming to you. And sometimes you've got to help people, you've got to coach them through it a bit. You can't let them become dependent on you, because if you as a manager then obviously just jump in and answer those questions all the time, you're just rescuing, you're just fixing, you're essentially teaching them that they should come to you. But instead, if you kind of push them to say, a lot of the time I say to my team, I'm actually not the expert in this. Like, this is new for me too. So you can go and find an answer that's probably better than the one I could give you. And I know that you're closer to the problem, so I know you can go solve this. So this is it. The third point is you do have to be a high performer. And a high performer isn't born, it's not someone who you weren't born with certain things. You just have to go and learn. You have to solve problems. You have to find solutions for things that other people can't find solutions for. You can be slower, but if you are, just make sure that the quality's there. You can be faster, but if you are, just make sure that, like me, maybe you need to bring people in to help you with those mistakes, and you point out those mistakes early on. But you have to be a high performer. Like, we can't be going into these conversations if our record of work is crap. Visibility, ROI, record of great work. If you've got all those three things, here's what you're going to do. Ignore every pay cycle that exists in your business. Trust me, I have worked in a massive corporate where you would think the pay cycle was so rigid that no one could ever change it or get around it. Ignore that. It's just policy. It can be changed. And go book in a meeting with your manager, prep them that you want to talk to them about pay. I prefer not to catch people off guard with this, because sometimes, they might want to go and find the facts and prep themselves as well. Maybe protect themselves, who knows, but prep themselves as well. So say, can I just get 10 minutes with you? I want to talk to you about salary. If they say to you, look, you can't get a salary increase right now, we've not got the budget, I would say, that's okay. I'm not expecting it right now. I just want to have the conversation with you about it. So maybe we can talk about like the future or when this is possible. You want to make sure that you are in the front foot with this. Even if there is no budget in that moment, we're still having this conversation. We're still making sure it's front of mind. So go into that conversation. And the first thing that I want you to say, this has worked for me time and time again, is remind them how much you actually value and love this job. So many people come into those conversations with me and say things like, I could get another job elsewhere that pays me this much, or threaten it, I'm fed up, or this is threatening. And it just leaves a bit of a sour taste, I'm not going to lie. I much prefer, especially if it's true, to go into that conversation and say, I actually really love this job. I want to be with this business for a long time. I really see myself here for the long run. I love what I'm doing. I want to keep adding value. However, this is how I asked for that 35 grand pay rise. The current salary I'm being paid isn't matching up to the value that I'm bringing to the business. Here's the proof. Here's the evidence. I'm going to talk you through, all the things that I've been doing, how you've been bringing value, how you've been bringing ROI, explain that to them. Then always give them a number. Like, always, I know this is the awkward, sticky bit. It's scary. Always give them a number. And probably I'm going to say this to you guys, go a bit higher than what you're comfortable with. Go a bit higher. And then this is the most important bit. Just shut up. Just stop talking. Sing a song in your head. Just stop talking. It's uncomfortable and it feels weird and you're going to want to over-explain and fill in the gaps. Just stop talking. So that first bit of the conversation, prepare yourself for it. You can take in notes. That first bit of the conversation should take like less than 5 minutes, maybe less than 3 minutes, and then just stop talking. If they come back and say it's not possible, the question you're going to ask is, okay, well, when is it possible? Because it's completely okay. Like, we cannot just wave a magic wand and find more money and get a bigger pay rise tomorrow. It's not going to happen like that. Sometimes it will, but quite often it won't. So what I want you to do is get some commitment around timeline. Say, okay, so this is what I'm hoping to be achieving in a year from now. And this is the conversations I have with my team, because we can be quite free with salary. And what I mean by that is we don't have these rigid pay cycles. So I often say to the team in one-on-ones, tell me where you want to be, where you aspire to be in 1 year from now, and I can help you get there. Like, we can work on that together, because a year's not that long, and I can help you get there. So we'll have those conversations, and sometimes at the 6-month mark, I can get them halfway there. And then in a year's time, I can get them further. And so it's getting some commitment around timing. If they then are constantly pushing back, we can't do that, that's not happening, that's then on you. It's kind of a question for you then to sort of reassess, is this somewhere I want to stay long term? If the value I'm bringing to the business isn't matching up, am I willing to stay? Sometimes the answer is yes. There's more things in life than salary. Like, there truly is. And trust me, I appreciate that money is very important. Like, it is the single most important thing living in this blooming capitalist society that we live in. I know it's important. However, if you're in a job, that I always say this because Shah loves her job, she doesn't get anxiety. She doesn't have Sunday scaries. She's in a very supportive environment with a great culture. I think that a lot of the time can outweigh some of the salary. And so if that's you, then maybe you're willing to stick it out for another couple of years, because actually it makes you deeply happy and you're not anxious. But if you're in a place where you're being undervalued, and then on top of that, it's making you miserable, it's making you unhappy, then, no one can answer the question but you. Are we staying? Life is short. Are we staying, or are we going to start looking at other options? Because you can't rely on other people to make those changes for you. But go and have that conversation. Go and ask for it. Get comfortable with rejection. It may be a no, and then the no's okay. It's, rejection is just redirection. It's just telling you, go and look elsewhere. Go and see something else. Go and do something else. I also want to talk about this gap in confidence in your team. So you will have forevermore some people in your team who are so confident, who will ask you for everything. They will ask for the moon and back. They will ask for the salary. They will bring you the problems, bring you whatever. You will have others who are quieter, who are more introverted, less likely to ask for the things. It's your job as their leader to make sure that you properly compensate people, not just on their confidence. Because what you'll find in life, and I have been scarred by this many, many, many a time, you will have some people who are great at talking the talk and good at talking about the work and using big words and telling you the things that they're doing, but they're not actually doing them. And you will have other people who are really good at just getting shit done and creating amazing work, doing great things, bringing value to the business, but less good at talking about them. Maybe they're quieter in meetings, maybe they don't ask for as much. It's your job to really clearly figure that out, because the last thing that you want to do, and sadly this happens in too many organizations, is be the type of manager who just rewards confidence, who rewards loudness, who rewards the people who know the biggest words. And for a very long time, that's how the workplace is run, sadly. That's how the workplace has been run, by the most confident, the loudest people in the room, when actually sometimes the people who are less willing to talk the talk, who are, less comfortable with doing the talking thing, are actually the ones that are bringing the most value to the business, and the ones who could bring the most value to a leadership position, for example. And, we could get really deeply, I guess, societal, political about this, because you also, something I learned is, and I have a bee in my bonnet about the fact that I went to state school and a lot of my peers didn't. Like, a lot of people who are in the industry that I am now in, where it's, going to doing the TEDx talks and writing the books and doing the podcasts, most of those people went to very expensive private schools, and I have just a bit of a bee in my bonnet about it, but it's fine. But if you think about, in those expensive private schools, people get taught how to talk. They get taught how to articulate things well. They get taught how to debate and have these really expensive, fancy sounding conversations. Whereas a lot of the people who didn't, we had to learn that later in life. The only way now that I think I've got somewhat good at articulating myself is through stuff like this, like having a podcast and creating YouTube videos, social media videos, delivering workshops, because you just practice it over and over again. But it took me a long ass time to feel somewhat comfortable in my voice. I remember listening to The Diary of a CEO when it was first a thing, like when I was like 23, and listening to Stephen Butler talk and think, oh my God, I could never be like that. I could never be that articulate. And just feeling like a sense of, I guess, jealousy and also sadness around, I could, but he just practiced it. He had just practiced it. And so the confidence in a lot of people is also privilege. And it's like, it could be creating even more of a divide, because if we reward those people who are just more confident, where do you think that confidence has come from? And so I'm going to attach to this episode in the show notes just some resources that I've built out that you can use. So I'm going to attach a PDF, which is exactly like how you can go ask for a pay rise, and a roundup of all these kind of visibility, essentially how to become this high performing employee who is paid their worth, to do the louder work, to, be visible, to ask for the pay rise, the exact conversation that you're going to go and have. So go and download that. I'll pop it in the show notes. Of course, this podcast is always sponsored by my company, which is Custard. So, Custard is a culture intelligence platform, which, if you've never heard of that before, I do not blame you. Not many people have. A culture intelligence platform is essentially where you get data, true data on your team about how they're feeling, where they need help, how to make them more accountable, how to delegate better to them. And you get it through these weekly pulse surveys. So, we are fighting back against the annual survey, and we're making sure that all managers get the data that they need to level their team up. Because if you imagine, we measure everything from, like, we measure our KPIs, we measure P&L, we measure sales, every bit of whatever metrics you measure in your business, in your team. We don't measure culture. And so Custard changes that. Custard makes sure that we can measure that culture, but more importantly, it gives you every single action that you need to go and use as a manager to level up the culture inside your team and level yourself up personally. All of these conversations are in there around pay rises, one-on-one conversations, meeting agendas. It's just a brilliant tool for managers to actually do the working on the teamwork, the leadership work. So go to the show notes. Again, go to the description. We always have offers on for podcast listeners because we appreciate you. We always have like brilliant offers for you to go and try it out. So you can try it out for free. Go and check out the link below. And it is very helpful, guys, for you to like, comment, subscribe, whatever buttons you want to click on this podcast. Please follow us. Please subscribe to us. Give us feedback. Drop a comment. Have you ever asked for a pay rise before? And if so, how did it go? Did it go wrong? Did it go well? If it went well, tell us what experience, like tell us what you did, what you asked. It's so helpful for everyone else to read those comments too. And I will see you next week. Thank you for tuning in.